Yeah, I've been working on cars my whole life. We started working in our own neighborhood. My dad didn't know squat about cars, so we had to learn it from other kids in the neighborhood. And there was one guy, his father was a body man. Another guy was a body man. Didn't really have a good like engine man or so from anybody in our neighborhood, but everybody kind of knew engines a little bit. They were a lot simpler back in those days.
Okay.
Like if you wanted to do, in the old days, you had a front wheel bearings and they had a castle nut on them, and you tightened these or took them off. Used to have lots of problems with wheel bearings in the old days because you had to pack them about every 10,000 miles.
So what's with the two sides? This side is curved, this side's flat.
Well, it gives you flexibility. If you want to cut on something that's curved, this will do it for you. Or if you want to cut something that's flat, this will do it for you. So
something?
Yeah, that's what they do. They cut.
Cut.
Those are little knife blades, and they'll cut metal. You got a nut that's stuck, and you don't have a wrench that fits it. You can use this. Get back to your old crescent hammer here. So you got your bolt, a bigger bolt, and you can beat that and beat the bolt around that way.
Beat it, or why?
If it's stuck or you don't have a wrench that fits it. This is called a two-piece spanner wrench. This is primitive Pete tools now.
Okay.
And so if you had somebody that's in front of you that beat the hell out of the nut, and it's all boogered up, and you can't get your wrench on it, or if you do get your wrench on it, it only goes halfway and hits this big sliver that's sticking out the sides. You go grab your wrench, smooth it down, and then your wrench goes on it, okay? Or I use actually there's another one I didn't bring out that rides with me, is called a torque wrench.
Is that the one that's a cross?
No. Torque wrench is about this long. It looks just like this. Okay, it's like a ratchet like that. And on the end, up here, it swivels just a little bit. So this handle can come up or down a little bit. And so this is what you can use to change your tires with. And it'll change almost all tires. And this thing here is actually made for production, because I used to be a production mechanic. Saves you time, which makes you money. So there's a 1/2-inch tire taker-offer thing there.
Okay, the technical term.
Tire taker-offers. So we've covered those guys. Oh, this one here I like. Another reason I like this one is it expands.
Ooh.
So you get a little more leverage, or you can close it down and get into tighter spaces.
Okay.
So I like that one a lot.
Okay.
Now here, if you have an older car that has spark plug wires on it, and you want to find out if you got a miss in your car.
What's that mean?
It means you're going boop, 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 boop. It's not running right. So this is what you used in the old days to pull each spark plug. Well, this is insulated. See this little guy here? That's insulated, and that's insulated there, because they put out, let's say, 40,000 volts. And so you don't want to get zapped by 40,000 volts. It don't really kill you, it just shocks the hell out of you. Well, this kind of goes back to these guys here. Okay, we showed you that one example. But this one here...
What are these called?
Extensions. That's a 3/8 extension. And I'll show you the difference of why I like certain ones over other ones. Okay, here's the two ends. This is...
Rotate it upward like that.
There we go. Okay. Now see this one here? How it's kind of
what's that for?
This gives an extension on this.
Oh, okay, so this is the same. How do you get it off?
Pull.
Oh, okay, so this part is the same as this part.
Yes.
But it just gives you longer reach.
Yes. Okay, now I'll show you the difference between those two tips here we just showed you. This one here gives you a little bit of wiggle.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, that's really good. Because let's say you got something that's way down in there, and you can't line this guy up. You can only come at it from an angle. So this gives you that little bit of wiggle room to reach in there, compared to this one here. See, you got a little bit of slop, but that's basically in the mechanism because it's sloppy. They don't have that really long wiggle like you do in the other one.
I don't get what
See this one? It doesn't wiggle.
What side is attached to what?
It goes to here.
Okay. So you're taking off nuts?
Yes.
Or bolts?
Nuts or bolts.
And this one has wiggle?
Not much.
What's it? Why does one have wiggle and one doesn't? Are they different sizes?
No, this one has, the shoulders are cut out here, see?
Oh, that would have been helpful to say.
I did.
No, you didn't. You just said that's... they're different. I didn't see why they were different.
Yeah, that one's got shoulders cut out.
Okay, so
that was a relatively new invention. Came out probably.
This one has these things.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it.
Yep. Now that came out. First one I saw was probably about in the 70s somewhere.
Okay, and then this one
does not. It's just straight.
This one doesn't have
the cutouts.
The cutouts. Okay. So here you can see them side by side.
Yep. So I prefer these guys over the square ones because you can get that extra little bit of movement.
These ones.
These ones.
What's that one called?
I don't know.
The ones with
wobbly
the
heads.
Wobbly head?
Wobbly heads.
Not square.
Not square.
Not square, or not squared off.
Yes.
The ones that have, it's like diamond almost, or...
Yes.
I don't know. Okay.
So those are the two kinds of extensions you can get.
Okay.
And in the old days, gaskets were actually made out of hard paper product. And they glued themselves to it. And you actually put glue on both sides of the gasket to make sure you didn't want them to leak. Put glue on both sides of the gasket, clamped it down. 10 years later, you got to take it off. That gasket rips in half, and you got half of the gasket stuck to the block and half the gasket stuck to the water pump.
SAE?
Society of Automotive Engineers.
That's American?
American.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's probably for older cars?
Yes.
SAE?
SAE is for older cars like my Duster.
You want a muscle car?
If you want an old muscle car, you need to have an SAE.
Okay.
You're using on your new, well, yours is 30 years old, but even then they do metric because it's from Japan.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So American muscle cars get SAE tools, otherwise probably going to use metric.
And when I was a mechanic back in the 70s, they had a little bit of both.
Oh, okay.
So you had a car and you go, it's another one. So you had to buy tools. I think Snap-on Tools was the guys that lobbied Congress to allow them to make two different versions of everything because you had to buy two sets of tools.
Oh, man.
Okay, this one here, we talked about that end piece, the little wobbly piece on it. This is a straight one here. Now, before they made this little sophisticated piece, before they made those, this is what you used to get into tight, wobbly places.
So this would go...
This would go on there.
And you can
get,
get weird.
You can get at weird angles because you're working on a car. They put stuff in small little places, so that gets you in there.
Okay.
Now this guy here is another one of those. Has that same wobbly end on the end, like we looked at with the longer. This is just a basic short extension.
Like this one?
It's the same thing as that one, only it's short.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you only need, let's say you're working on something that's this far in, okay, and then you got a bulkhead right here. So
you don't want a long extension in
that extension's too long, it won't work.
Yeah.
So you put this extension, where's that little bugger? Put this extension on there. Yeah. Let me see this guy here.
There's so many things.
Oh yeah.
What?
This is why you spend $10,000 on tools in a heartbeat. Oh yeah, I had a lot of money.
How much? Okay, hold on. What? So this is just like you can just customize endlessly if you have a bunch of these little. This is like Connects or like Legos.
Yes, Legos. And I've used them sometimes because you only got a spot that's this big, and you can't get something in there. You can't get this guy in there because the bolt is behind another bulkhead, so you got to use a socket to get to it. But you have two bulkheads like that, and the thing you're working on is right there. Okay. So that's what that little tiny thing's for. Okay. Okay. This guy here is an adapter. Okay. It's 3/8 on this end. Okay. 3/8 female and 1/2 inch male. You're out in the middle of Boone Toolies up in Alaska, and all you've got with you is this 7/8.
The lug nut one?
13/16, the lug nut one. That's the only thing you got, right, is that guy. And you don't have this fancy 1/2 inch drive socket. So you take this guy, and you take one of these guys.
That was the adapter, yeah?
There's the adapter. 3/8, 1/2 inch. 3/8, 1/2 inch.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you shove that onto there, and there. Now you can change your tire.
Whoa.
Using the 3/8 ratchet.
Whoa.
I did this one time I was changing tires on a UPS truck. We had the UPS contract, and it was right up the street from my dad's house. Had to go out and change a tire, and all I had was a 3/8 ratchet. And I had this little connector like this, and I had broken my 3/8 breaker bar trying to do that because it was 3/8 and it was a truck. So I drove the half mile, actually about a mile down to my dad's house and got a 1/2 inch breaker bar and came back and finished the job. But this almost did it if it wouldn't have broke.
I understood maybe about half of that.
Well, that's okay. The old wire cutters.
Did wire cutters.
No, that was just wire cutters. These are crimpers also.
Oh.
These are wire strippers. You have a wire cutter right there. Hang on, here, let me get a pointy tool. You have wire cutters here that are flat.
Hold it up to the camera.
Flat there, just like diagonal cutters.
Why are you holding it that way? Hold it in the middle.
Oh, okay.
There.
Jeez. Picky, picky, picky.
What?
Jeez Christ.
I'm trying to make it so people can see what you're doing.
And then down here you have wire strippers. And you see that I don't know if you can see them or not, but there's 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18, wherever the things are. I don't know if I'm pointing at them. My eyeballs are too shot.
Okay.
Anyway, these guys you can strip wire with. Let me show you. A little wire here.
It actually has the writing on it.
Yeah.
So you could have just done that.
And this is how you use them. You know your size of wire. That's 14. Guess I better put my glasses on.
How do you know that's 14?
I've worked with them for a long time.
Well, how would I know?
You kind of go up here and you say, is that enough? No, it's too big. You want this just a little bit lower. You just go down the list. First you try the big one. Come on. And you take it like that and then you twist it. Okay? And if this pulls off, that's the right size. No?
Oh.
If that doesn't work, you go down to the smaller size. You clamp it. Well, you see what it did here? Let's take a look at that first. They may not be able to see it. But you see it didn't even cut down below. It just kind of rounded around the outside edge. So that one's too small. So then you go down to the next size smaller, and you go there and you round it around like that.
That's cutting it? Or that's
stripping it.
Stripping the coating.
Stripping the coating. And then you give her a pull. And it's starting to work. So there you pull on it. Let's try that bigger one to actually pull on it. There, and that's stripped the wire off.
Oh, handy.
And then this other end up here, this end here, that's the crimper. And that's what you have. You usually have some kind of a butt connector. I've used tons and tons of butt connectors. And so you put the butt connector on here, and then this is a terrible one. Boy, this thing is stiff. So now we want 12 to 14 probably. So you put your butt connector on there, and then you crimp that down, and that squashes the butt connector and makes a good tight fit on the wire.
Okay.
So that's what that part's for up there.
Okay.
And this stuff down here is another wire cutter for bigger stuff.
Oh, okay. So on these holes, when it's open, they're open.
Yep.
So you can see through it, and when you close them,
it
snaps it out.
They'll cut or they'll crimp. If you want to try to crimp with them, you got to be really careful, and you got to have just the right size stuff. But they will do some crimping.
So this falls under electrical.
Electrical stuff. If you got an electrical problem, you need to run a stretch of wire, or you got a bad wire or something like that. You got two butt connectors. You clip one end of the wire and strip it. Clip the other end of the wire and strip it. Put your butt connectors on. Put your new wire in between. Come by with this tool and squirt some oil on it first so it actually works. Crimp, 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 crimp. You've spliced in a set of wires. Okay? That works really good. Little mirror, dentist's mirror they call it. It's real good for looking at something that's, I like the telescopic ones, so you can get behind stuff and look at it. It really comes in handy. I don't know if it's a real essential. It's one of those things that if you don't got it and you need it, boy, it comes in real handy. And they're like $1.50 or something like that. So those are real good to throw in your toolbox.
For seeing tight spaces where your nut or bolt is.
Yeah, and if you like, there's a bulkhead here and there's something behind it that you got to see, you can take this, put it out here, and see the bulkhead. See, you can see the back of my hand with it right there. Okay, really good, dirt cheap. Pick them up anywhere. A lot of times you can get the same thing like this. Instead of having a mirror on the end, it's got a magnet on the end. Really good because you're working someplace down here and you're going like this, and you oh shit. Oh shit. So you
hear the death clunk.
The death clunk. So you take the mirror and you hold it down here until you can find your little part.
And then you got the magnet on the end.
It's the magnet on the end. I don't know if this is magnetic or not. No, it's too cheap. Then you use the magnet on the other end to go down and pick up the bolt, very carefully pull it up, and then you get your bolt back. So one thing, if you don't need it, you don't need it, but if you do need it, it's pretty handy to have.
Okay.
Paint opener.
What? Why?
To pry stuff with. It's a great little pry tool to get in that little tiny spot to open things with.
Okay. Like prying what?
You can pry all sorts of stuff. That's a Craftsman there. And this is a drop forged Jaws in Japan. So they're so proud they didn't put their name on it. So
very handy.
Yeah. Oh, here's my magnet. Remember I was telling you reach down and get your magnet? Oh. Here's my magnet.
Here's a magnet for picking up your nuts and bolts.
Yeah, reaching in tight places. Yep.
Wow, that's pretty.
Yeah, it's got some use to it. That's why I've had it in there for a long time. And
Wow.
And if you lose it, yeah, you don't really care.
Why?
Because it's so cheap.
Oh, okay.
Marking things. Sharpie, medium point, it's my favorite. Makes big enough. You can make help me signs.
If you're broken down.
Broken down on the side of the road, you grab an old beer carton, rip it open, say help me on it. You know, if you're begging for money, that'll help. Okay?
Or hitching a ride.
Hitching a ride, whatever it happens to be.
Or possibly measuring something.
Yeah, it works for lots of stuff. So.
Okay.
Metric ratchet wrenches. This is a 14-inch wire cutter.
Oh, it looks serious.
It is. Now, when you want to get in, that won't get you into like padlocks or anything. It's too small. But if you got that thing that you just can't quite cut with your little tiny pliers here, or even your bigger dikes, you can't get it cut because it's too big, that baby will do it. And they fit right in the toolbox.
This is size
14?
14.
14.
Okay.
Now they also make, which I have somehow lost, I don't know where, they make some dikes that have compound just like that. And they're just a little bit bigger than this, and they work really good. That compound double leverage point makes it a lot. So.
Okay.
And this.
Wait.
That's a mechanical finger. Show the end out there. There you go. It opens and closes. Reach down here and grab this little guy. There you go.
Wow.
Now, we were up in Mission, BC one time, chasing the points race, a top gas dragster. We were changing the weight on the clutch, and Cliff, the owner and the head mechanic, he dropped one of the bolts down inside the bell housing. And we're going, oh, well, get yourself a magnet.
Yeah.
And Cliff goes, oh, you can't. It's aluminum.
Oh.
It was on those sophisticated clutches. This is just coming out with these multi-level clutches at the time. And he goes, oh, we can't reach it. We can't reach it down with a magnet. We didn't have one of these mechanical fingers, and even if you did, you probably couldn't find it because it was buried down in the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
So Zeke, one of the guys that was Cliff's brother, he says he's about an 8-year-old skinny kid coming by. He goes, hey kid, come on over here. And he goes, what do you need? And he goes, reach down in there and grab that bolt or washer or whatever it was. Little skinny arm goes down. You mean this one? Yeah, that one. So he whipped out and gave him $5.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have been able to run the car. We would have been dead in the water. We won that race.
So this would be for if you need to grab something in a tight space and you drop it, but it's not magnetic.
Correct.
It's aluminum.
And
like this?
Yeah.
It's like the claw game.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just like it.
Okay.
Okay. This thing here is a specialty little pair of pliers. If you're ever going to work on tire chains, that's the tool you get to work on tire chains with. It's also a real good cutter if you want to slice something that you can't get in. Let's say you can't use this guy because it's too small a space. But this, you see the leverage on this. This is really tiny out here on this end, and long out here. That gives you a lot of leverage. Good cutter.
The heck is that?
That's a drift, a brass drift.
What's that for?
If you want to beat on something, and you don't want to beat on, let's say you can't get at it because it's behind a bulkhead, and you want to beat on it, you can't.
So you go like
that. That's it. I've got two. This is actually an expensive one. It's a real brass drift. I think I bought that one from Snap-on, so that's probably 40 bucks. This one's just a kingpin I took out of a UPS truck. Does the same thing, but it's not brass.
What's a kingpin?
Kingpin is this part on a truck that has your A-arm comes out and grabs onto this, and your spindle is here in the middle. A-arms are out here. I better have it up and down. A-arms are here,
Can't really see
there, and the spindle is in the middle. It's got a little slot cut in it so that you can lock the spindle in place. Spindle's where your bearings come out. And then your tire and wheel fit on the end of that. What else is in here? Oh, I happen to have a longer 3/8 crescent winch with, or crescent.
That one bends.
Yes. Yeah, that one bends to get in even more tighter spaces. And I have another one I bought Snap-on that I used professionally for years. It has a little kink in the handle so you can turn it in here and just spin stuff real easy. This one doesn't spin real good for moving stuff around. What else? This is an old... Oh, go ahead and show that one. Again, that's 3/8. And this one has a neat feature on it. Remember how we were pulling on this one to get them off?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This has a button here on the back. That one?
Show it. Show it.
See the button? So I can push it in. Let me see. And there's a little...
Okay, so there's a button
there.
Okay.
Now this button, if you'll see that little button, the button out here? That's what holds on your sockets.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch that little button real carefully when I push it in. See it disappear? This thing comes out and this button disappears. That allows you to take these things off easily. Now, there's an interesting story about this one. Maybe you can put that in your B-roll. There's a guy that invented that, and he took it to Craftsman, and the Craftsman said, "Oh, that looks really cool. We project we could sell like 500,000 of those." And so they paid him X number of dollars for 500,000, and they end up selling millions and millions and millions, and they basically screwed him out of the money that he was supposed to be getting. So he took him to court, and he actually won.
Wow.
So anyway, that's that guy there. Vacuum hose with a plug, because if you have a vacuum leak someplace, and your car's running crappy because your vacuum leak, the hose is broke, you pull it off, put that on there, it stops the vacuum leak.
Okay. I have no idea what any of that meant.
And I got a file that has been sharpened into a chisel. Now, if you got a file for a chisel, make sure you wear your safety glasses, because a file is very hard and it will shatter if you hit it too hard. So, we were talking earlier about what a cotter pin is. That's what a cotter pin looks like.
That's what holds your wheel on.
Holds your wheel on. Without this, your wheel can come off, because you can't tighten that big castle nut out there on the end of your wheel bearings, because it's got to be set to what they call what the hell do they call that? Preset. No, that's not it. Anyway, you got these things. This is how you get them out. You grab a hold of it like this, and you pull, and out it comes. And if it's bent over on the other end, of course, you got to straighten it out, and then you can pull it and do it. So.
Okay, so for...
Oh, and a pencil. And a 3-cornered file. Okay? 3-cornered file kind of works like...
Why is it called 3-cornered?
How many corners on it?
I see.
That's for chasing threads. If you can't do this if you can't get to the threads with this one, that one there will allow you to chase the threads.
I don't know what that means either.
If you got a screw that the threads are all boogered up, okay?
What do you mean boogered up?
I mean, somebody hit it with a hammer, or it's got some gnarling in it, something like that, where you can't get your nut on, okay? And you only got one nut, you're out in the middle of nowhere. This thing here will allow you to go down there and chase the threads. Clean them out.
Okay.
And it'll work on just about everything. But that's kind of, I would have, I used to carry a brass hammer in here and a claw hammer. Brass hammer was just for hitting stuff with. And
no shit, really?
Yeah. Claw hammers for prying.
Okay.